Right, some background news. Four US senators are under scrutiny for claims they used insider knowledge about the impending coronavirus crisis to sell shares before the prices plummeted. Republicans Rick Behr and Kelly Loeffler face calls to quit after selling millions in stocks last month. James Inhofe, a Republican, and predictably Dianne Feinstein, a Democrat, also reportedly sold holdings at the same time. Now, it's illegal for Congress members to trade based on non-public information gathered during their official duties. And more predictably, all four senators deny any wrongdoing, which is a common theme amongst their people, as you know. And Mr. Behr of North Carolina reportedly dumped up to $1.7 million of stocks last month. Mrs. Loeffler of Georgia is reported to have sold holdings up to $3 million in a series of transactions beginning the same day as a Senate briefing on the virus. Mr. Behr, who is the chairman of the Senate Intelligence Committee, has also come under fire after US outlet NPR obtained a recording of him warning a group of wealthy constituents last month about the dire economic impact of the coronavirus at a time when the Trump administration was publicly downplaying the threat. And he also told the group to curtail their travel. No surprise. Remember all the stock selling before 9/11? Perhaps we'll find a link to that later on in the show. Now, the impact of this coronavirus is the people who understand it for what it is, and the people who, like bots, just follow everything, like go and buy toilet paper and let's wear scary masks in supermarkets, etc. Bot people. And we'll have more on them later as well. So here's what happened at Amazon. No surprise. Designed for lead takeover when everything else is gone. Chris Smalls lost his job on Monday after helping lead a protest of what some workers claim is the company's lack of precautions against the virus. Amazon has confirmed one positive case of COVID-19 at the facility, and Monday's walkout at Amazon workers claimed there were 10 cases and chanted shut it down in a call for the building to be closed and sanitized. Workers alleged they lacked face masks and that cleaning supplies needed to clean the building were scarce. Less than 2 hours after the protest, Smalls got a phone call telling him that he was fired, and it was a targeted retaliation, Smalls told CBS. Amazon said in a statement that Smalls was fired for multiple safety issues, and he had received multiple warnings for violating social distancing guidelines and putting the safety of others at risk, according to the company statement. This next piece is the same. On the one hand, they want you to fear and panic and let's all have masks and hand sanitizer and social distancing, and on the other hand, there's no protection being afforded to the staff that are being told that they have to continue working whilst the bulk of the country is told you're not working. All very fascist, that if you ask me. So hospitals are threatening to fire healthcare workers who publicise their working conditions during the coronavirus pandemic, or is it dem panic? And in some cases followed through. Ming Lin, an emergency room physician in Washington state, said she was told on Friday or he was told, sorry, he was out of a job because he'd given an interview to a newspaper about a Facebook post detailing what he believed to be inadequate protective equipment and also testing. Those test kits don't work. They provide 80% positive. Fake. And in Chicago, a nurse was fired after emailing colleagues that she wanted to wear a more protective mask whilst on duty. In New York, the NYU Langone health system has warned employees they could be terminated if they talk to the media without authorization. Zeke Heil. And hospitals are muzzling nurses and other healthcare workers in an attempt to preserve their image, said Ruth Schubert, who's a spokesman for the Washington State Nurses Association. It is outrageous, she said, but hospitals have traditionally had strict media guidelines to protect patient privacy. That's about as relevant as the National Security Act. Urging staff to talk with journalists only through official public relations officers. Really. But the pandemic has ushered in a new era, Schubert said, and healthcare workers must have the ability to tell the public what is really going on inside the facilities where they are caring for COVID-19 patients, she said. And there you have it. Like I said, it's thinly disguised fascism. Alex Salmond, Scotland, has been cleared of sexually assaulting 9 women whilst he was Scotland's First Minister. A jury found the former SNP leader not guilty on 12 of the sexual charges facing him, while another was found not proven. A further charge of sexually assaulting a 10th woman had previously been dropped by prosecutors. Now, Mr. Salmond said he was innocent of all the charges against him throughout the 2-week trial, but the women who made the allegations included an SNP politician, a party worker, and several current and former Scottish Government civil servants and also officials. That tells you right there and then there's certain levels and there's other levels. And during his evidence to the court, he said the claims made about his alleged conduct were deliberate fabrications for a political purpose or just plain exaggerations. So that's the news story. Why would 12 plus 1 women come forward and accuse them of the same thing, and yet all of them found to be lying? Well, this goes back to 1996, believe it or not, and this is a typical cover-up by Scottish MPs and the Scottish legal system backed by Whitehall and the Parliament, who were all responsible for the Dunblane school massacre in 1996, because some of the children in that school began to talk of the sexual abuse by well-known Scottish politicians that were the backbone of the Tony Blair government at the time. You all know their names, or certainly the people in the UK will know the names. Salmond being one of them, Brown being another. And they hired a patsy, Thomas Hamilton, to kill 16 children and then launch one child who survived that school shooting disaster into a global superstar in the field of tennis. That child was Andy Murray. These people don't reach the top by accident. And this has been another example of it being covered up by Scotland Yard when they could have prevented that event, and all the other people like Jimmy Savile and all his cohorts. But their investigation at the time in the 90s all led back to the royals. And so they deleted the files and the investigation. But time always tells, doesn't it? The Trump administration unsealed criminal charges Thursday against senior officials of the government of Venezuela, including President Nicolas Maduro, accusing them of taking a leading role in the country's illegal drug trafficking. We'll have more on that later. Maduro helped manage and ultimately lead a criminal organization known as the Cartel of the Suns. Dear, it's all coming out now. According to an indictment that was made public on Thursday, under his leadership, the cartel sought not only to enrich its members and enhance their power, but also flood the United States with cocaine and inflict the drug's harmful and addictive effects on users in this country, which was all run by the CIA. And we'll have more on that later also. An indictment filed in federal court in Manhattan, no surprise, said Maduro and other cartel members prioritized using cocaine as a weapon against America and importing as much cocaine as possible into the United States. The charges marked a new low in relations with Venezuela, which have been deteriorating since 1999 when Hugo Chavez, Maduro's predecessor, became president. He villainized the US and other countries he accused of taking advantage of Venezuela because of the oil, and the US and Maduro have long been at odds over the country's extensive corruption, and the Trump administration backed the leader of the opposition, Juan Guaido, instead of Maduro. And the United States is among more than 50 countries who have refused to recognize Maduro as the head of state. Final news item before we go into the sub-intel and a music break. And it's a good news story. And rather familiar with me. And it's a further example of my hometown club that I support. Perhaps too much at times in my life, but that's the way it is. But Everton Football Club in the UK and its official charity, Everton in the Community, launched last week what is known as the Blue Family, Everton playing blue, and is a coordinated outreach and engagement campaign to maintain contact with the supporters and also provide vital support and assistance to some of the most vulnerable, socially isolated and at-risk members of the community in the wake of the coronavirus pandemic. The Blue Family campaign will maintain and extend the reach of the club and the charity following the closure of all club sites, the suspension of football fixtures, or soccer fixtures for American listeners, and also the postponement of most community programme deliveries. Now, the club provided £50,000, which is about $70,000, to fund the launch and initial activities, and will be relocating club and community staff to ensure the effective delivery of this campaign. And it said that Evertonians across the world are together during this difficult time, and that's why the club has launched its Blue Family campaign on top of its Care in the Community programme to bring the fan base and the community together and to help the most needy and also the most vulnerable members of society. Now, this outreach activity includes fans and members of the community in greatest need contacted by Everton in the Community staff to deliver tailored and focused support, assistance and guidance, including essential food parcels distribution, including breakfast packs for young children, financial assistance for prescription purchases and delivery, mobile phone credit for those living alone and with limited support networks, support with gas and/or electricity vouchers for those facing increased fuel bills, mental health support and advice, a referral service for access to Everton in the community support provision, calls from the Everton Fan Centre to thousands of fans to maintain contact and provide a friendly voice to talk to, prioritising the elderly and also the isolated. Increased communication through the club's email, social media and web platforms to share important public information and deliver engaging contact for those in isolation. Exercise and mindfulness videos provided by trained staff from the club and Everton in the community. The fresh food that was intended for the players and the staff at Everton at their training headquarters, Finch Farm, was all donated to the North Liverpool Food Bank on Friday. Everton and its official charity, Everton in the Community, launched the Blue Family campaign, and it will be assisting some of the city's most vulnerable community members following the outbreak. And the produce that was collected from the training facility was delivered to the food bank, where it will be packaged into essential food parcels ready for distribution for those in need across the north of Liverpool. And throughout the day, the club's fan services team continued to call vulnerable, isolated and at-risk people across Merseyside to ensure the Blue Family initiative continued to support those in need. So that's what the club are doing. The charity's neighbourhood team has continued to work to support more than 10,000 residents in the area that live within the immediate vicinity of Goodison Park, and is running a phone, text and email service for any local resident that requires advice or support relating to matters such as housing, benefits and general well-being. All great stuff. And that is why that particular club is nicknamed the People's Club. They do a lot for the community, whilst the more richer and media-based darlings less than a mile away give little to nothing back to their community or fan base. And they're not just rivalry-based words either. The opinion gathered to support that statement came from several charities within the region, all stating the same thing. They give you nothing, but Everton are always willing to help, support and give. And I'm pleased that I could put that in a show. It's some of the positive aspects that the People's Club that we have are being administered within the community. It's the same up in Scotland. I can't remember the name, Love Is or something like that. They're doing the same thing, backed by THI Scotland. So it's not all negative stuff we report.